You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everyone! Monsters University is coming out this Friday, and you know what that means?
Another episode of Don't F with the Original.
With
Nicholas, I am the video game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. Now, this is a franchise that's actually, 12 years old.
Yep.
So I think it qualifies.
Oh, yeah.
So let's not waste any time, because I think we've got a lot of material, by which I mean maybe not.
None at all, yeah.
Let's talk about Monsters, Inc., the movie that started it all.
So, basically, what happens, we're living in a universe of monsters here. Monster Universe is powered by the screams of little kids. So there's a company called Monsters, Inc., where they send monsters through doors, and they scare little kids, and they gather the power from that. Unfortunately, there's a little girl that wanders into the monster universe, and basically hijinks ensues as they try to get the little girl back in her universe.
John Goodman playing the main guy, Sully, who's their top worker, very dedicated, but also the guy who got the little girl into their world.
Yeah.
And his best friend, Mike Kowalski, played by Billy Crystal, who's kind of an F-up.
Yeah. Well, he cares. He wants to get things done, and he just, well, let's just do it. Who cares how it happens? Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, though, he doesn't do his paperwork. Sully has to cover for him. He can't maintain his relationship particularly well, which is part of the subplot. Yeah, he has a relationship with Celia, who's played by Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, minor role.
Yeah, really minor role. He's sort of always getting into trouble.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. I don't like that dynamic, I have to say. It's a tiresome dynamic. I think the movie does it well. We've actually talked about this movie before, Monsters, Inc., and I was like, oh, he's such an F-up, and everybody has to clean up his mess, and you sort of pointed out to me at that point that you was like, well, no, actually, Sully's actually the one getting them into trouble half the time.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, you're right, and now that I think about it, I think that might be why it's a little bit more bearable than it usually is.
Yeah, it's cliche when there's always one person getting them into trouble and the other person has to fix the messes, and yet they still stay together, because friendship beats all, but eventually, friendship has its limits too, and when one person's always getting you in trouble, eventually you kind of, have to take a step back and maybe talk to the person and say, hey dude, come on, work with me here.
No, I agree, and which is why the sequel doesn't interest me in the least, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Monsters, Inc. 2001, I have to say, it hasn't aged particularly well as far as I'm concerned. When it came out, I remember liking it a lot. And I'm watching it today, and I'm a little bit bored. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the animation. It's not their best movie, let's just say.
It's very basic animation. You basically have monsters, so they move in weird, whimsical ways, but it's very basic. It's like, okay, this one's walking, and this one's little shifting around a little bit, but there's nothing spectacular to look at.
Yeah, it's more than that. I find that a lot of the environments look kind of bland and pulled back a little bit. When you watch season 1 of Reboot, and you sort of notice that the environment looks like a still painting and the characters are sort of moving over it instead of within it.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, I find Monsters, Inc. has a little bit of that.
Like when the Flintstones are running, basically.
Yeah, actually, pretty much. I find, especially when they're at the Monsters, Inc. factory thing where they go into doors to come out of closet and scare little children.
Yeah.
That environment in particular seems to sort of work on by different rules than the characters. It's clearly not the same animation team that's been working on each.
Yeah, it's possible. It's usually how it works, though.
Yeah, it usually is. It's just that it wasn't 3D animation was still pretty new at that point.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't been refined enough for the directors to sort of keep an eye to keep that consistent. So
that's true.
There's a little bit of a disconnect there. So again, it's still good animation overall.
Yeah.
The little girl, what's her name? Boo.
Yeah.
The design of the little girl, she's a little girl in cartoon form. It's not that particularly cute. Like Lilo is cuter, but her movements are really well done.
Yeah.
You know, I like when she has the costume and she's sort of always walking a little bit towards the left because the costume must be a little bit heavier that side.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute.
She's still happy with the costume though, because like kids love to wear costumes. Like, yeah, this is great, you know.
Oh no, that girl is so cute. Like,
Yeah.
for me, she carries most of the movie because I'm convinced they used a real baby's voice to do her voice and just like played with the baby and recorded whatever reactions they could out of it and probably built the script around it even.
Wow.
You know? But those reactions are super cute.
Yeah. But I have to say, you kind of get bored eventually. I got bored of her, you know, after, 10, 15 minutes of her. I was like, okay, she's a kid. She's adorable. Let's move on a little more with the story, you know. Because, yeah, I got bored with this movie because it is a kid's movie. It's not, I don't consider it like a family movie. Like I say, Shrek had humor for like, adults and both children. Here it's mostly like kids jokes, and kids puns, and it's really for kids. And I didn't feel it was much for me in that movie.
Hey, you make a good point about that being a very kid-oriented movie. There are some adult themes which I want to get to later, but first I want to say why you're right, and then I'll say why you're wrong.
Awesome.
But to me, it felt like it was built like an old Tom and Jerry or Bugs Bunny or maybe more Woody Woodpecker cartoon.
Okay.
Oh, it's just one big long chase essentially, and hijinks, slapstick ensues. It never really stops. You even have the big brass, big band music in the background. Like, it felt like a really 50s, 40s cartoon of that type, where it's just breakneck slapstick until they get to the final set piece, where it feels a little bit more Hollywood at that point. But there's never a point where the story and the hijinks stop for the characters to sort of take stock, make decisions, make discoveries even. It's just run, trip, do a funny face, run. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's true.
But where I feel that there might be some adult ideas here is that this movie is peculiar for having like a lot of lessons,
Okay.
Like, on the one hand, there's the idea of, for kids, if you identify with Boo as a young kid, that monsters might not be as scary as you think they are.
Okay. But that's a kid's lesson, though.
Yeah, that's totally a kid's lesson. And then at the second level, if you identify with the monsters, is the idea that you can't be scared of the outside world. Like, these are monsters who, in their society, they believe that kids are radioactive or whatever, but they certainly treat it like it's radioactivity. And when you think about it, they have no reasons to believe that other than they've been told by their corporate overlords that that's how things should be treated.
Okay.
So they're victims of propaganda, and there's this message of having to be a little bit more open to the outside world, to be open to the things that people say, oh, it's bad just because it's bad.
So, okay. A good message for communist Russia.
Is there even such a thing as communist Russia anymore? Certainly in 2001 it was already gone.
I know.
Think of it, for 10 years. And then there's a third thing, which I think is the more interesting part of it, is that the big plot essentially involves them drawing energy from kids by scaring them.
Yeah.
And then a villain, which I guess I shouldn't identify who it is, because it does come as a quote-unquote surprise, although...
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, when you have Steve Buscemi in a movie, he's usually not anything other than the antagonist.
That's a good point.
But who he represents and who he's working for sort of are trying to, exploit that power that the scared kids have to the maximum, to an abusive level, if you will.
Yeah.
To get more. And the big lesson of the movie, without going into spoilers as to how they get there, it's not to deny ourselves that level of energy and or deny ourselves the energy we need to meet our needs, but to approach our retrieving that energy in a different way. So it's sort of an environmental message about how we treat the earth. Like, we can still consume what the earth has to give, but we can't just like take more. We just have to work at how we approach it. So it's sort of an interesting green message, but with terrified crying kids instead of the environment.
Okay, so you're comparing terrified kids to environmentalists.
No,
it's
not
weird.
to environmentalists, to the environment.
Okay, that's weird.
But it is there, like it is
Yeah.
undeniably there. It is really weird, and I think that's only adults who are gonna catch on to that. I think.
Yeah, I guess.
And I do like that it's weird. Like I do like that it's a different way than just like slamming the environment and like leaves and like the forest is beautiful and all of that stuff. Like I'm tired of seeing that crap.
Okay.
So if you want to save me the sight of a crying Indian in the forest and give me crying kids in their bedroom instead, I'm all for it. As perverted as that sounds.
See, that message was very well hidden because I didn't see that at all. It was like that went way over my head. I just got that, children crying is bad. So don't have children. So, yeah, okay, very good messages. Yeah, some of them for kids. I guess a few for adults. But, yeah, I still would not watch it. I wouldn't sit down and I was like, all right, Monsters Inc., this is good, let's watch this, I would do that for Shrek, because Shrek, I appreciate the jokes and the humor. I'm not sure there's a hidden message in Shrek, but whatever.
Well, there is.
There is. Yeah,
it's don't follow the established paradigm about beauty.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah.
It wasn't that hidden, So Shrek, so that's something watchable. This one, I would just get bored, I think, and I would not just always sit through that and go, oh, it's on TV, I'm going to watch it. No, I'm not going to watch that. It'd be just boring to me.
No, I agree. I'm one that came out of theaters really liking it and rewatching it recently. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to do something else. Having said that, let's talk about the voice work a little bit, if only to kill time.
Okay, sounds good.
John Goodman. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, spectacular.
Yeah. He's good in every cartoon. I like the design of his character. I know that. I'd say let's talk about sound voice. Now I'm going to talk about the design of the character. But that's
the design goes with the voice and the actor. It wouldn't have worked. They had created this little, tiny monster with John Goodman's voice. It's not believable.
Yeah.
But Sully is really massive, giant blue monster. It's that's Goodman. I can see that.
Yeah. He looks like a Muppet.
Yes, that blue Muppet. You're right.
That dude belongs in Sesame Street. He really does. I guess that's why Boo's not afraid of him. She's like, hey, look, it's that dude from Sesame Street.
Yeah, probably.
Billy Crystal, who plays Mike Kowalski, is his friend there. Yeah, here's my thing. I like Billy Crystal, and I think he's really funny. And I have actually a lot of praise to say about what he does with Kowalski in this. But I will have to say that he has this sort of loud, boisterous, cartoony voice. And given that he's like a green ball with a big eye in a colorful universe, it's like, oh, that's a lot of loudness, both for my ears and my eyes. It's a little bit hard to take.
Yeah. You did mention he's doing a cartoony voice, so, kudos to him. And, but, it's a big eye, but he also has, a giant mouth as well. The character is an eye and a mouth, so, I can get the loudness. Not my favorite character, though. It's just, yeah, you're right. Loudness gets to you eventually after a while, and you're like, oh, please shut up. But, he did an okay job. I've had worse voice acting.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Billy Crystal is a talented comedian, and his timing is dead on. There's some really cute jokes in terms of the banter, because they sort of have that sort of 50s, musical comedy, quick wit sort of thing going, and it's the speed at which he delivers the punchlines or the setups that really make it work. And there's one bit that made me laugh out loud where they go, they're trying to put the girl back into her universe, and they get caught, and he's having an argument with Sully, and people are turning around. He goes "Oh, we're practicing this musical," and then he starts singing, and then John Goodman background just go, boop, 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 boop. It's freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's the timing. It's all both of them just having this great vocal chemistry and knowing when to start talking and when to stop. It's good.
Is the voice acting done before or after the animation?
Always before.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense, So you have the great timing, and then you just animate through it. It's it's very good. It's a good job.
Yeah, I find so. And then when just Mike alone, just Billy Crystal alone, when he gets captured by Steve Buscemi's character, called Randall.
Yeah.
He's a salamander because he looks like Steve Buscemi, so he looks like a salamander.
Yeah. It's really the eyes. Those are the Steve Buscemi eyes, I thought.
That's true. And but also the thinness of his body as well. You know?
Yes, yeah.
And the fact that he's quasi invisible.
Wow.
But Randall catches Kowalski and he asks questions to Kowalski to get him to talk, and Kowalski's just answering like really stupid answers to try to hide things. And again, Billy Crystal's tone and delivery is really dead on. It's very funny.
Yeah, he's funny when he's not screaming, basically.
Yeah, you're right. So I think the voice acting is great. Jennifer Tilly's good too.
Yeah.
She has a weird voice always.
Yeah, it makes perfect for a monster.
Yeah, pretty much. So, alright, so the voice work is good. The story's a little bit childish. I like the final set piece. That's one thing we didn't mention.
Yeah.
The final set piece, for those of you who are not familiar with, is very surrealistic because they keep going in and out of doors in a factory of doors, and the doors, as you've mentioned, are sort of gateways to our universe, into different kids' bedrooms.
Yeah.
So it allows them to go all across the world, into an igloo, into whatever,
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of cool. I sort of like when final set pieces just go nuts,
Yeah. And you have all those doors, the creative way of using the doors, to get away from the bad guy. Yeah, it was it was fun,
Yeah.
He's looking for that one special door, although that factory is kind of built like in the least efficient way possible, but we'll just gloss over that. It's a kid's movie. It's all good.
Yeah. It follows monster logic. Let's just put it there.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, we're 12 years later. We're getting a prequel, not a sequel.
Oh, great.
Called Monsters University. What they're showing us is the college years of Sully and Kowalski.
Yeah.
And Sully is the popular guy, sort of like he is in this movie at work.
Yeah.
And Kowalski is the not so popular little ball being rejected by the jocks at the university and being bullied by them. And he wants to be part of a fraternity in which Sully already is, and we're probably going to have a frat house war the way they set it up in the trailer.
I'm not looking forward to that. And that's basically... sounds like, a lot of anti-bullying message that that has been crammed, down our throat for the last year and a half. Yeah, I'm not saying bullying is great, bullying is terrible, but, kind of getting bored with that.
Yeah, we've been hearing so much about it for a year. And I want to get back to that because I'm not sure the setting is even appropriate for a bullying message for kids.
Yeah, me neither, but yeah, we'll go back on that.
But for me, it reminded me even more of those frat boy movies, like Meatballs or Revenge of the Nerds, or all of those, those fraternity movies. And I'm like, from the 80s. And I'm like, really? Like, that's... First of all, it feels a little bit like random plot generator. And we need to do something with the Monsters, Inc. franchise. Why? Because we don't have imagination at Pixar anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, what are we going to do? I watched Revenge of the Nerds last week. We could do the same thing exactly, but with monsters. Sold!
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's not a kid-appropriate thing, I think. I would never show Revenge of the Nerds to kids.
Yeah. I mean, like, they would kidify it for sure, but it's just...
Yeah.
For me, it's such Hollywood formula, you know what I mean? Like, no effort for creativity in such a plot. Yeah. I'm not saying the jokes, they might not do something creative with it, like, they might, but the plot itself,
Yeah.
The premise, I should say.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm not even sure university is a great area to talk about bullying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, grade school, high school, I understand bullying. You're in such a small, closed environment that, you're stuck there.
Yeah, and also you're incredibly immature.
Yeah.
At that age.
Exactly. So it's right for bullying. But, universities are huge. You don't want to hang out. A crowd is bullying you. You can always go somewhere else and find other people.
Yeah.
And
you have the maturity to do it. You no longer have the impulse that as a teenager you have, and it's a normal impulse. I don't mean to demean teenagers.
Yeah.
To sort of want to fit in and stand your ground and find a way to find your place in the social circle. It's a natural phase of growing up to go through a phase where you're genetically pushed to try to figure that out, if you will.
Yeah.
But by the time you reach college, you're usually past that phase of your life the same way a 4-year-old is past the phase of their lives where they play with their poop. Like it's really in that same way.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's the wrong setting. Like, yeah, I'm not saying bullying doesn't happen in college. I think cyberbullying in particular still happens there.
Yeah.
Certainly the numbers, the statistics seem to show that. But it's not the same type of bullying.
No, it's not. Like doing this movie, the whole sorority thing. He wants to be part of a sorority and
fraternity.
Fraternity. Sorry, you're right. Different.
Although he's naked and we don't see his penis, so you know.
Good point. But he wants to be part of a fraternity, and they don't want him there. He's like, "Why do you keep insisting? I mean, you're just asking to be bullied at this point." It's like, these guys don't want me. I'm still gonna insist on hanging out with them. You're just asking for trouble, you know. Sure, your friend's in there, but you can see your friend outside of the fraternity. It's perfectly fine. It's just it seems a very weak premise to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point about the I need to be in that fraternity. It's like, why?
Yeah, I mean, like taking another movie like Revenge of the Nerds, which I barely remember, but they're trying to get into fraternities at the beginning, and they're like, "Well, we can't have you. You're nerds." So they made their own fraternity.
Yeah,
and there they go. You know, then I think there was a conflict with another one, but you know that's secondary. You know, the main thing is, you know, okay, they don't want us anywhere else. Let's just make our own fraternity. So if you're not wanted somewhere, go somewhere else. Fighting to get in is just going to get you in even more trouble. And I think that you know, sending the message that you know you keep insisting and eventually people will like you is not a great message to send to kids.
That's a really good point. Like that's a very good point. I think like because we've had other bullying cartoon movies just recently with Wreck-It Ralph, and Wreck-It Ralph really took a different tact with it, which was, I thought, wiser and also, you know, better for your kids, to be honest. Where the big lesson was like, what does Wreck-It Ralph do? He goes to find friends where they'll accept it. It's as simple as that. And then at the end, the people he's stuck with, working with, also accept him. But he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't care. I have my friend in that other game. I love Q-Bert. I love all these other guys, and these are my pals. You know, I brought Q-Bert over to my game, in fact, so that we can hang out. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really it's a very weird message to send. You know, keep insisting, and eventually your personality will shine through, and they'll like you. It's like, no, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen, and it shouldn't, and you shouldn't aim for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's another problem also with the college setting, and in relation to bullying as well, is that to sort of convey to kids that bullying and that sort of rejection still happens at the college level, like that sort of, again, I'm not saying rejection doesn't happen at college, it does, but that sort of rejection still happens, I think is also really harmful, because one of the things that we do at this podcast whenever we talk about bullying, and we've done it in other recordings, is we tell teenagers and kids who have trouble with this, it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
You're in 9th grade, you got 2 years to go, and then you're out, and then let me tell you something, you really are free from this.
Yeah.
It's like, just tough it up, just 2 more years. Here are some tricks, go elsewhere, find friends in social clubs elsewhere after school, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But if those even don't work for whatever reason, just keep in mind that you only got 2 years to go, and then you're free of all that garbage.
Yeah.
And here, when movies try to pretend that in college it's the same thing, then how are kids supposed to say that think it's gonna be over?
Yeah, there's just their idea that they're going to go to college and this is going to happen all over again. Be bullied. So I'm not going to go to college or something. I'll do something else. You know, just find the decision. But you shouldn't base it on the fact that, am I going to be bullied or not in college? Well, yes, I am. So, you know, I'm not going to go there. That's not the way to decide if you're going to go to college or not. You know, it's just, you know, it doesn't happen that much.
No, exactly. No, if you're being bullied in high school, like, you only need to hang on for as long as high school lasts. And there's a switch, like, you just grow up. And growing up is not just like, oh, and now I have big adult responsibilities, or I just blossom and suddenly people accept me for who I am. No, sometimes growing up also means that the bully just goes like, what the, why did I treat people like that? That's stupid. I'm going to stop treating people like that. And that happens to most kids.
There's also the thing when you're in college, you're pretty much in classes and in the same buildings and whatever as people that kind of share a passion with you. So you have a lot of things in common. So bullying, it doesn't happen as much in that kind of setting too. You're in a physics building where you're a bunch of people that that love physics and kind of share certain attributes, and bullying is a lot less common. And there's not gonna be people coming outside just to bully. Yeah, look at those physics guy. No, that doesn't happen. It's people stay within their groups, and it's very strong circles together, and that there's a lot less negative emotions going around.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like I'm not suggesting that no one will treat you badly in college. Jerks exist even in the adult world. Yeah. What I'm saying is you won't be stuck in a situation where everybody gangs up on you.
Exactly.
So yeah, no. So all this to say, like nothing about Monsters University remotely either rings true or rings interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So, that's a fair bit of negativity on Pixar there.
Yeah, well, they're kind of looking for it.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Like, I don't know what's going on with Pixar. Like, they used to be the most creative animation studio,
Yeah.
From Toy Story to Ratatouille to Finding Nemo to Up. Just these gorgeous, amazing, ambitious, crazy movies. Now we're getting, like, Cars 2, Monsters University, a spin-off of Cars called Planes, where it's the same thing except with planes.
That's original.
Yeah. Woo! You were gonna get Finding Nemo 2. Like, what's going on? Like, where did the creativity go with Pixar? Like,
I guess they need to pay the bills, and what's in right now is remakes and sequels. So they figure, well, let's start making remakes and sequels and prequels and spin-offs of our popular franchises. It's a safe bet to make money. Maybe they'll be very creative in their story, but it's just that, they're not creating whole new universes. They're basically going back to the universes that they already created earlier, and let's just expand on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I don't find as interesting. Because again, if you don't like the universe to begin with, you're not going to go see the movie. It's kind of lame,
Yeah, and is the Monsters Inc. universe fully realized, even at that? Like, I mean, like, it's sort of really zany and just sort of functional to the plot. Like, I mean, for heaven's sakes, they work in a company called Monsters Inc. They're in the world filled with monsters.
It'd be like a company here called Humans Inc.
Yeah, exactly.
No sense.
All right, final question for you. Is it going to fuck with the original?
The original was for kids. And the message they're going with here about bullying is something kind of serious that, kind of, not as much for young kids. It's mostly for like older kids and teenagers. So are they aiming for that demographics now? Did they realize that their original crowd is getting older, so they're trying to shift?
They are 12 years older.
Exactly. So maybe not. But I mean, the original was a kids movie. It has to remain a kids movie. It's just like whimsical and fantastic and cute. And I don't think bullying is something that,
especially college bullying.
Yeah, college bullying. There's nothing that really, mixes with that. So I think they are effing with the original.
Yeah. To the detriment of...
Yeah. Yeah, they should have made another kids movie, honestly.
Yeah, I think my opinion is exactly the same as yours. I think just the topic of it seems just weird to me. And I do feel that Monsters, Inc. was a one-off. It was constructed as a one-off. It was a Bugs Bunny cartoon, but feature-length with challenging animation and really good voice acting. I don't think it was meant to be revisited or let alone fleshed out into a full universe.
Yeah.
And you look, I'm going to keep an open mind and say, like, hey, for all I know, it could be awesome.
Yeah.
All I'm seeing is a trailer,
Indeed.
No big blah.
Yeah.
If you want to share with us your love for Monsters, Inc., your enthusiasm for Monsters University, or just you want to shoot the poop, I'm cool with that, You can write us at mail@idiomanic.com or post a comment at idiomanic.com. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. And we're also on iTunes.
We're a lot of places.
Oh, we're everywhere except Monster World.
Yay. We'll have to work on that.